Welcome back, everyone. We are working on object-oriented design in Java programming. And so because we're designing objects, we're dealing with a role-playing game kind of hierarchy. And we're thinking about objects that would appear in a role-playing game. And so what we've done already is we created an entity that has names and description. And this will form the basis for items, agents, and currency. And we've kind of changed this a little bit. Currency is a kind of item, but it tends to have its own unique properties. So I'm just going to move it away from items and consider it its own type of entity. And then we'll have entity containers. We're going to deal with entity containers later, but let's look at some of the items we have available. What I did is I talked extensively with several students in my classes as far as the experience they have with role-playing games. And I just tapped them for what kinds of other objects there might be and how we might do it. We went through this big process of looking at weapons, armor, and tools. And as we're developing it, we thought about, well, you're going to have to pay for them. There's going to be this element of durability. Like, how many times can you use it before you can no longer use it? It breaks apart or whatever. It will have like a weight or a carrying weight, a type of material that it's made out of, and possible enchantments. Now, we realized that weapons, armor, and tools could have all of these properties. And these did not originate as just a general item. But the more we looked at them, the more we realized that anything that's a shared trait or a shared property of items should go in the parent object. So we're going to create an item today, and we're going to give it cost, durability, weight, material, enchantment. I might wait on the material enchantment to really develop that for a later video. But what we're going to show you is how when you create, for example, an item that happens to be a type of entity, we're going to do this thing called inheritance. And so an item will inherit everything that the entity has. And once we create our properties for an item, any particular items that are inherited from item, like a weapon or an armor, will get the properties of items. They will all share those, the possibility of having these different properties. So let's take a look and let's create an item and see what this concept of inheritance is all about. I'd like you to open up your, if you're doing Android Studio, that's great. If you're just doing Eclipse and Java, you can do this in any way you want. Let's take a look at our project structure to kind of go over what we're going to be doing here. And the first thing I want to show you is that in our Java files, we have our main activity, which controls everything, but we also have an entity. And the entity is over here. We're looking at the code here. Entity has these instance variables, some constructors, some getter methods, setter methods, and they're all part of entity. What I want to do is take a specific kind of entity, and we'll call it an item, and it's going to inherit everything that an entity has. In order to do that, you want to go to the folder, you want to go to this file here, and you want to add a new class. So you want to add it in the same location where entity and main activity is. Just going to right-click, choose New Java Class, and we're going to call this Item with a capital I. It is a class. Click OK. And so you should have this public class item. Now, one of the things that we're going to do here is we are going to make item a special kind of entity. In fact, I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this to the other screen. Hold on a second. Let me split this vertically. And I want you to see the entity on one side, the item on the next. I'm going to zoom in. And all we're going to do is check this out. We're going to put public class item extends entity, like so. That's it. Now watch what happens. We've just now created an item class, and it's a kind of entity. Save your changes. And let's take a look at main activity. Let's go ahead and expand this back out. In our main activity, we created these thing 1, thing 2, and we played them out. We're going to try something a little different. We're going to create a new thing. We're going to create an item. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I don't need 2 entities anymore. And of course, this is going to have to change like so. So just like we created thing one as an entity, we're going to create a new item. The class is item, so we write the class name, and we're going to give it a variable. And we're going to call it weapon equals new item. Now look at this. It already knows there's this thing called item, and I'm going to put on here. And it says no parameters. And I'm just going to put a little thing here, little semicolon. And now watch what I do here. I'm going to write weapon dot. Now notice I did not code any properties. I did not code any methods in our item. I just said class item extends entity. And when I put weapon dot, I can get a description. I can set the name, get the name, set a description. So I can set its name here. We'll call it the Axe of Destiny. I don't know.
Sure, why not?
That's its name. And then let's go ahead and set a description. Set description. I don't know. Give me a description here. A battle axe with ornate writing, whatever. So there's our description. Okay. The point is not so much that we can come up with interesting names and descriptions of items, but the fact that we just did inheritance. We now have objects that can be items, and they get everything that the entity had. And the proof is right here when we set the name and set the description. So I'm going to add a little thing to the output here, just to add that we have this, plus equals. We'll do a new line and another new line. And we have an object. This time, we'll get the name. And let's run it. Now, how's that for hardly any coding right here? Public class. I'm just going to close this for a second and close these parts here. So all we did is extend entity, and we got everything that entity has. Well, I just realized I have thing1.getDescription here, and I meant to do that before I did the thing for the object. And this is what I ended up with. We have an object, Axe of Destiny, description, battle axe with ornate writing, but I kind of cut into the other one. The proof is, though, it works, and we know it works. So now the big question is, okay, so how are we going to use this? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do what we did with entity, only we're going to add some private instance variables for items according to our chart. First things first, let's go ahead and create some instance variables. They're all private. Private int cost. Private int durability. Private int weight. Now, the other thing we could do, let's save ourselves some time. Let's just declare all the variables in one line of code. Int cost, comma, durability, comma, weight, comma, material. Oh, wait a minute, we're going to do material and enchantment differently. So here, private string material. Enchantment, and that would be like, you know, I don't know, a talking sword, or, you know, catches on, it adds to additional damage, or it's got some kind of spell on it, whatever that might basically allow it more power, or whatever it might have. And so here's our instance variables. And we're going to probably have to deal with materials and enchantments a little differently. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take a list of our possible materials and we're going to draw from that list. And the same thing goes for enchantment. We'll have a list of possible enchantments and it will draw from there. We're going to deal with that a little bit later. Now we could also create an item constructor. That's going to take a little more explaining. So before I do that, let's just go ahead and create some getter and setter methods for cost, durability, and weight. Public, we'll try a void, get cost, like so. What isn't like about this? Oh, public void, we can't get cost. Sorry, int. We gotta get the return type. There we go, now it likes it. Now, public void set cost. And it does it for us because it's Android Studio. And it works well with Java. Actually, before I even do that, let's just see what happens here. There it is. All right. We talked about durability. We'll set durability. I guess we should probably set before we get it. It doesn't really matter. I like setting before I get it. And we'll do the same thing for weight. Actually, let me just go back a step. There it is. So now we have get cost, set durability, get durability, set weight, get weight. Okay, we're just about out of time for this video. So I'm going to wrap this up here with what you got. You can take a look at this code. And in my next video, we're going to start talking about how we can deal with constructors on a derived class, which is what item is. So we want to be able to take a look at item and see how we can construct an item in different ways we can do that, taking advantage of object-oriented programming. So stay tuned.